Hey guys, this is Melody, and today I'm doing a video based on a hashtag. On Twitter, if you guys are on there, you may have seen a hashtag going around that's hashtag draw this in your style. So I thought, why not make a video of it? The image that flashed up at the beginning of this video is the one that I'm doing right now. It's by an artist, Laura Pickle. I hope I'm saying that correctly. On Twitter, it's at Laura Pick, and I will hopefully have that in the description. Anyway, I just thought it was a super cute design. I kind of wish I had done it digitally. I think it would have been easier to get the colors and everything correct, but I also feel a lot more confident with watercolors or markers, traditional media, just in general. Anyways, as you can probably see, I had a lot of problems with her nose and her mouth. I don't know what I was doing, but she just looked kind of creepy and her face was scrunched up, so I went through and erased that multiple times. So I'm sure you've noticed by now the setting of this video is a little different from the last one. I was able to buy myself a new ring light, and I have that set up near my desk to help brighten up the space a little bit because it was kind of dark in the last video and the shadows were annoying for me to watch, especially when it was sped up. It was just kind of jumpy. However, my desk being white, it is kind of reflective and you could see the ring on my desk. So I had this old, I think it's particle board thing from when I took an art class in college, and it's not quite as reflective. The paper stands out against it because it's so dark, but hopefully at some point I'll get something that's a little nicer and doesn't have tape lines on the edge of it. So stay tuned to see what other issues I have with lighting and how I might fix them in the future. Anyway, back to this whole video. At first, I was kind of reluctant to do something like this, or even to participate in the hashtag draw this in your style challenge, or whatever people are calling it, because I don't really see myself as having any particular style. My art really varies based on media and amount of detail. I do some things that are really cartoony, and I do other things that have a whole lot of detail. Since my channel is still new and this is only my second video and I've only done watercolors, that might be hard to see unless you've been following me on Twitter or Instagram, but there's a lot of variety, and sometimes I think that's good. I can do realism, I can do kind of watercolor. I'm still learning. I don't know a lot. Something I haven't really branched out and experimented with until recently. I can do some markers, a little bit of colored pencil, but really I don't feel like I have a cohesive style because my style varies between medium. But I have also had a couple people tell me that they can look at stuff that I've done and they can tell that it was me. So maybe I have more of a style than I realize I have. And really it's not like having a specific style is too big of a deal. It's not super important. It's not something you can force yourself to have. It just kind of comes from doing art more and more. And that's what I've been trying to do. Just work a lot in sketchbooks, paint a lot, draw a lot. And I have seen throughout the years that obviously I have improved some, which is good. But I've also sort of developed a little bit of a style, even if that style means that I have a few different styles. Like I said, the cartoony, the detailed, there's a little bit of variety, and I guess it's nice to be able to switch back and forth sometimes. With this piece specifically, it is a little bit more cartoony, mostly because it is a person. I've been working with trying to find that line between realism and kind of a cartoony style. Like I mentioned earlier, noses, for whatever reason, seem to be one of the most difficult things for me, as well as the obvious hands and feet that everyone seems to struggle with. And on this piece you can see I was putting those little dots She wasn't really centered in the middle of the paper and it bothered me, so I was hoping if I did kind of a circle behind her head and some bubbles or something, I could make the piece feel a little bit more balanced. Not that it's really meant to be an intricate full piece, it is just for a challenge on Twitter, but you know. Anyway, so she is a little bit cartoony, but I wanted to add in some fine lines just to kind of define things. At first I thought maybe I would do colored pencil, but I decided doing it with a fine liner really is more my style. It's the way that I normally work, so I would just stick with that. And originally this piece was actually supposed to be done in marker, and I had gotten out some Bristol board, but I had also gotten out some of my watercolor paper for the next one that I was going to do, and I accidentally started sketching this on the watercolor paper I was going to use for the other piece. So I figured I would just go with it anyway. And in the end, I think it turned out, looking at my marker selection, I don't know that I would have had the right pink to do her hair anyway, so maybe it's better I decided to do watercolor on accident. Anyway, so then I go on and I decide to paint a little box behind her. Again, just an attempt to make her seem a little more centered in the piece. I don't know that it worked, but I think overall it turned out to be pretty cute. And I love the design of the original character. I do believe she was meant to be a mermaid, but I did not feel like going in and trying to create a tail and everything. I thought I would leave it simple and just leave it at the portrait. And with that, the piece is pretty much done. I just had to take the tape off and hope not to smudge the yellow paint in the background. So the next piece is based on this little cactus lady, which was drawn and painted by Casey Golden. She has a YouTube channel and she's really great to watch. She's part of what inspired me to start trying to work in watercolor, but I just thought the cactus girl was kind of cute. She has the two little buns, and I don't know, it's an interesting creation. Nothing that I've ever tried to draw before, but I really don't enjoy drawing hands. So I thought, well, if I draw her with her arms crossed instead of on the ground, then maybe I can avoid drawing the hands and the fingers. So I attempted that, but anatomy probably is not correct, and it took a while for me to figure out. Anyway, it was an interesting thing to attempt to draw. Because I had just finished the nose on the other one, I felt like I had a better handle on how to draw in this one, so I didn't have to erase them a million times. But, you know, the crossing arms took me a little while to try. I feel like on this one, I didn't quite get the colors correct. I didn't go with the super bright green. That's kind of a sap green. I went with more muted colors, which I suppose is kind of my style. When I do watercolors, I generally go for things that are a little bit more watered down and muted, not things that are super bright and colorful. Maybe at some point I'll play around with super colorful things or draw things that require to have super colorful colors, but at the moment that's just not really me. So as we get into me actually painting or trying to paint, you can see I go down with quite a bit of water, which proves to be a bit of an issue later on. You can see that I start trying to put shadows in on the already wet paint, which kind of works because it blends into it. However, when I go on into the bun, eventually the darker green starts bleeding into her forehead. And, you know, it just starts creating all sorts of issues because the paint's just bleeding everywhere. I don't know if I was just getting impatient or what was going on. Maybe I was just really excited to paint this. But yeah, and then I start going in pink to try to do some of the blush, but I really should have waited until the green was completely dry, because around her face it just started bleeding into everything, and at this point you can see that the bun has bled into her forehead. So from what you guys are seeing, it's really hard to distinguish between the forehead and her bun, which just makes it look like she has an oddly shaped head. Putting the pink on the shoulders also didn't really go well. It just didn't have the look I was going for. So I started painting the pot, and then I started inking, thinking, well, maybe this will solve all my problems. And it sort of does. At least you can tell between the forehead and her bun. And it helps distinguish some things that were kind of washed away in the bleeding. But it doesn't fix everything. There's still a few problems, but you know, it's not horrible. One of the things I noticed was that her eyes were not very red, but instead of going in with more red paint, I decided to just use my pencil that I was sketching with and color it in red. I figured since I was having so many bleeding issues, maybe it would just be safer to do it that way. Also, while I was doing this, I decided, well, I'll just add some extra little lines, and then completely forgot to add in all her spines until later. But at least I remembered. I also went in with a pink colored pencil to do some of her blush and the pink on her shoulders and stuff that I was trying to do earlier with the paint that didn't work out. And I went in with a white gel pen to put some highlights in her eyes and on her lips, and in doing so I realized that I had never done it on the first piece. So I brought that back and put it on there. And then I decided to go in with a yellow background because I thought it might just help pull the piece together a little bit. And then I haven't done this before, but I put a little bit of a border with the fine liner, and I think it looked okay. So that one was wrapped up. I don't know, maybe I could have done a little better if I knew more about watercolors or was a little bit more patient, but you know, it's not horrible. I do think I liked the first one better, so here's a close-up of that one. I just think she's really cute. And here's the sassy cactus. And that's it for today, so I'll see you guys next week.